तो ठीक है?
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, okay.
Okay, so very good evening to all of you, and glad that those who have come to this class just before Holi appreciate their presence, and hope that you will find this talk interesting. Well, what I'm going to talk to you, of course, I have a habit of taking up some of the classes which I have never taught earlier. So this is one such topic under happiness, science of happiness, but it's altogether different way and different matter that I'm going to talk to you. Therefore, your attention is more important, and even if you just casually listen to me, you will find the essence of the talk. The fundamental behind this talk is how do we communicate happiness. Problem is that whenever we become happy, we never say that I am happy. We rarely say that. And our happiness is expressed in our behavior, in our body. And this is true for other emotions as well. Sadness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, everywhere it is visible through body. But with happiness, it is remarkably possible. And what I'm going to talk to you is about how do we communicate happiness non-verbally. That is, we don't say that we are happy, but everybody understands that we are happy. So non-verbal communication of happiness is the topic I'm going to talk to you. And this is very important in the sense that those who would be appearing in interview or will be engaged in some kind of discussions, academic, non-academic, business, commercial, technical, your presence is not only important, what you say is not only important, how you say is also very important. So our topic today is about how we express our happiness rather than what we express. That's the fundamental behind non-verbal communication. It's also a language like verbal communication, but it is written nowhere, known by none, but understood by all. So it's like a secret code, and it's not my statement. Sapir, there was a famous, in 1960s, there was a famous sociologist, anthropologist. He actually used this terminology with this definition, that it's a secret code in our language, which is written nowhere, known by none, understood by all. By doing this, he said that, well, we all differ in our languages. If we are Indian, we speak Hindi or our local languages. But if we go abroad, we don't speak their language, and many times we convey or communicate our emotion through non-verbal means, through facial expressions, or through other kinds of body languages. And people easily understand that. Therefore, the people who have been doing research in this field believe that these expressions are more or less universally understood. Therefore, once again, I repeat, it's a language known by none, understood by all, but written nowhere. With this comment, I'll go and I'll let you know how we express our happiness. Initially, I'll tell you a small theoretical part, which is that we begin with Darwin. In fact, Darwin wrote a book in 1872, Expressions of Emotions in Man and Animal. Darwin had 3 books, and the last book was on expressions of emotion in man and animal. So he says that he actually did research on facial expressions and body language. And he tried to find some kind of similarity between animal expressions and human expressions. The idea was to understand what kind of signaling characteristics we actually inherit from the animals, and to human behavior domain. So believe me, in 1872, he came up with a book on expressions of emotion in man and animals. So nonverbal expressions has got an important evolutionary importance, and it has got a very important signaling characteristics which has actually evolved over the years and through the different species. Now then, it has been found that why do we behave non-verbally? People like Scherrer, the photograph who's is a Swiss, actually Switzerland, it's a Swiss psychologist, and you may call it neuroscientist. And Paul Ekman is a California-based psychologist. They actually did very extensive research. Paul Ekman is still surviving. He's around 85 years of age. And I have some interaction with these people because I also did my PhD sometime in 1981 on these nonverbal expressions. And I had great discussions. And even today I do it. In fact, in University of Pennsylvania, from where I have just returned, a month back, I did carry out these expressions which are available not only in normal human being, in patients, mental patients, and how do we understand the diagnosis of a patient through their nonverbal communication. So the point I was trying to see in University of Pennsylvania, that if a patient is depressed, we don't need to ask them, are you depressed? We do not need a questioning. You can actually code a behavior through computer vision and come out with a conclusion that the person is depressed. Likewise, in happiness also, if you are happy, you don't need to tell happiness, as I said. Your expressions, body language tells that you are happy. So it has got an adaptive function. So whenever you are afraid, whenever you are faced with a situation, a context, a social situation, you respond to that even without speaking. So that response to an appropriate response to an appropriate context tells that it's an adaptive behavior. Nonverbal expressions is an adaptive behavior, and your intent is communicated. Because we believe in communication there are three things. There is a context, there is a content, and there is an intent. So the context, if your content of your communication is context dependent, then it becomes adaptive. And if the content of your communication is having an intent, then also it is non-verbally expressed. So it has got a dual function: rapid preparation of appropriate response to events or the context, and communication of intent. And these non-verbal expressions are the interface between these two functions. Therefore, they are universal in nature. Paul Ekman says that non-verbal expressions, wherever you go, the 6 emotions, that is happy, sad, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, these emotions are expressed universally in universal way. Therefore, even if we do not understand each other's language, we understand each other's expressions. Now, the purpose behind this nonverbal message is there are certain purposes. Why do we do this? You see this photograph, the girl, shaking hand with someone, possibly with a colleague or maybe an interviewer, whatever be there. The question is, why do we express such kind of messages? There are certain behavioral functions we have. One is that whenever we want to emphasize what we have been saying, we repeat it by nonverbal language. So if I'm saying goodbye, I also wave my hand. Therefore, I understand that it's a purpose of, it reinforces what I'm trying to communicate. It can also be utilized to contradict between what I am saying and how I am saying. Suppose I am very angry or I am very happy, but I'm not showing some kind of anger. So the question is, nonverbal messages are also used to actually express some kind of contradictions between what you say and how you say. At times, we simply don't say anything, express our nonverbal language. Like, instead of saying thank you, the girl just shakes hand with a broad smile. So it's just a substitution of what you have been saying. So it can repeat, it can serve the purpose of repetition of what you have been saying. It can contradict, that is what you have been saying and how you have been saying. It can substitute, that is you are not saying, you are only expressing. So it can substitute. It can complement as well. That is, you are saying thank you to someone and at the same time patting his or her back is a complimenting behavior. Or it can also accent. That is, you show a lot of anger and at the same time you are thumping on the table. That is, you want to reinforce your emotion through accenting. So nonverbal messages have got various purposes, and these purposes nobody teaches us, nobody tells us how these are to be done. We model it in the society, we learn about it, we express it the way we see our parents, our teachers, our friends, they express it. Now, in some culture, these expressions are very intense. In some culture, some of the emotions are de-intensified. They are not expressed as normally others do. In some culture, they mask it. For example, if you go to Japan and if you find that someone is angry, they actually smile. Say they mask it. So nonverbal behaviors are expressed through different kinds of display rules. Some intensify, some de-intensify, some neutralize it, and some mask it. So we actually communicate nonverbally through different means, different ways, different display rules, the way we learn it in our culture. Now there are 4 particular types of nonverbal expressions, which generally these days we have been doing in computer vision studies. We call it behavior signature analysis. For example, facial expressions. When you express your face, we understand a particular emotion and we try to understand through facial expressions how the micro expressions or what kind of emotions are being reflected in your face. So face is one very important channel through which we understand the communication of happiness. The second channel is called paralanguage. Paralanguage means it's about understand how a person has been saying. If a person is very angry, his emphasis on certain words would be altogether different as compared to a condition if he is not at all angry. So if you are silent, that's also a kind of paralinguistic characteristics, extra linguistic characteristics. We call it vocalization rather than verbalization. Vocalization means how you are speaking rather than what you have been speaking. The third channel of nonverbal communication is called kinesics and proxemics. That is how your gestures, how your body is expressing. Involve your hand movement. For example, while we teach, we make use of a lot of hand movements. We try to make emphasis on certain things like this. I don't know whether you can see me or not. You guys, can you see me? Shikanna? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
can, you can see me, you see the slides as well. Huh? Okay. So it can be kinesics, that is your body language, and it can be proxemics, that is how you maintain space between your friends or your relatives. That's called the metric analysis of space between the two persons or the two interactants is called proxemics, and your body language is called kinesics. A fourth kind of nonverbal expression, this is kinesics actually. The kind of when you are not very sure, you keep your hand at your neck. It means I understand that probably you are not very sure, you are not very confident of what you're trying to say. So the body language tells about your level of confidence. And the fourth one is called gaze direction. How you look it at. We talk to each other, we try to look at each other, and our look tells many things. If I have done something wrong, then I may not be able to look at your eyes. If I am very happy, then I will be able to see at your eyes. So your gaze directions, your pupillary behavior, your vision towards the interactant, everything tells a story. Everything communicates, and these communications are scientifically studied, which is called behavior signature analysis. An example, I'll go by example, facial expressions, for example. When we talk about facial expressions, face is the most important indicator for communication. Why? Because anywhere you go in this world, you will find that we try to look at each other's face, because face is exposed to the full view of others. Probably other body parts are not exposed. If you are sitting in front of me across the table, probably I will not be able to see how your legs are moving, whether you have got a moving leg syndrome or not, whether your sitting posture is comfortable or not. I may not be able to see, but your face is always exposed to full view of others. Therefore, face is very important for understanding the communication of emotion. And the amount and the kind of information it conveys is very easy to comprehend. If you are smile, even if your smile remains for a fraction of a second, we call micro expressions. We understand that probably you are happy, and it can convey a lot of message at one go. Therefore, facial expression is very important for communication of happiness. So Mehrabian in 1972 says that when we communicate, roughly 7% of our communication is verbal, 38% is vocal, and 55% facial. That's what Mehrabian in 1972 said, that our communication is primarily dominated by facial expressions of emotion, followed by vocal, and finally by verbal. Now, how do we understand facial expressions? You see, can you see these pictures, Sukanna? Hello?
Yes, sir, the pictures are visible.
Visible. Why I'm saying why the pictures are important? Because you see, I wanted to ask you this question. The lady is, communicating some kind of surprised happiness. I believe you would understand that. Now, which face you think is communicating surprise or happiness, whatever you say? The first one, the right one, right left one, or left one? Can anybody answer that? Can anybody tell which face is showing surprise more prominently?
It's the left one.
Good. Very good. Very good. What is your name?
Sir, Abhas Pradhan.
Pardon?
Abhas Pradhan.
Avas. Very good. Now, Avas, this is important to understand. that the original face is this, right, left. What we have done, we know that the left side of the face is actually the real expressions of the face. Through right side, we do not express our real emotion, real intent, because we are all right-handed people, and right-handed people have a tendency, control everything. If you are a right-handed person, then you would be able to control your right face much more. So we try to control our right face much more. But your actual emotion is always reflected on the left side of the face. Therefore, what I did, I took this photograph, right, left, flipped it, and in Photoshop, I combined the right side and the left side. When you flip it, you will find that your left face always expresses the real emotion, and the right side of the face always expresses the social emotion, which we call the public face. So there is something called private face. Our left side of the face is more private face, and the right side of the face is more public face. You can also check what is your real personality, what is your real emotion. You take a snap of your passport size photograph, put it in the Photoshop, flip it, cut it vertically, join the left side and right side. You will understand what kind of person you are, what kind of emotion is reflected in your face, how people would appreciate you. Because when we try to see our face, when we try to convey our emotion, our best emotions are conveyed through left side of the face. So a lot of researches are being done how emotions and happiness are communicated through this kind of studies, which is called hemifacial composite study. There are a lot of studies also being done on happiness in micro-expressions. Micro-expressions means we know that whatever emotion you express, it doesn't last long. Our real expressions never last for more than few milliseconds. That is, mostly these micro-expressions last for 200 milliseconds. But the moment you express it, then we try to match our expression with the socially learned rules. So if my socially learned rule is to mask my emotion, then I change it. Now this change cannot be possible below 200 milliseconds. So generally what we do, if we try to understand somebody's original emotion, not the masked emotion, we take a high-speed, we take photographs of with a high-speed camera for 1 second, and then put them in a time series and try to understand that what was the real expression in the first 200 milliseconds. Because in the first 200 milliseconds, whatever emotions come to you is actually the real emotion or spontaneous emotions. And then we try to control it. A lot of people also try to understand at what point of time your apex emotion, that is best emotion, is better expressed. Because there is an onset time, there is an offset time, and there is an apex time. In the apex time, for example, in this particular photograph, say series of photographs, this is the apex one. That is, the emotion is best expressed at this point of time. This is called the apex photograph. So we try to understand what are your spontaneous and involuntary expressions, because most of the expressions that we make are learned emotions. They are not our, real intent behind it. And at the same time, we also try to understand through these micro-expression studies that whether you are trying to deceive someone or not. So deception is also studied through micro-expressions, and through micro-expression we try to understand whether you are really happy at the very outset or not. You may show happiness, but initially you are very angry. So if I want to see whether really you are angry or happy, because most of the time you will show happiness even if you are angry, because that's the culturally approved rule. At that point of time, we do a time series analysis and try to see at what point you are angry, and then your emotion is actually changed to some kind of socially approved expression, which is happiness, but that's not the real happiness. We try to understand the real emotion through micro-expression studies. We also try to understand that when you see a face, a happy face and an angry face, how long we look at the face, and how do we connect what we say and how we say. So your lot of studies are being done with eye tracking instruments, and it has been found that if two expressions are there before the children or the students, angry face we don't look at for more time, but if it is a happy face we look at for more and more duration of time. So we understand that if you are happy, then communications become very easy, and our eye contact, our interaction becomes much more easy. So amodal means only verbal or only facial. Multimodal or intermodal means how these two things are connected. That is what you say and how you say. That is the way you have been saying. Verbally you have been showing, and verbally you have been showing happiness, and also facially you have been showing happiness. How they are connected, how they are conditioned between each other. Why not it so happen that verbally I am angry, but facially I am saying happiness. This also happens. So this is what the contradiction also takes place. So a lot of researches through thermal images, we also try to see, for example, in the next, that how the two faces, when you are happy, then the blood circulation, that is vascularity in the blood flow changes also. So through thermal camera, you can also detect whether you are really happy or not, because we know if you are really happy, which part of the face will actually have more blood flow. So the blood flow can be actually examined through some kind of mechanisms. In our IIT, electrical engineering professor Arvind Rautre has been doing a lot of work on thermal imaging, and try to understand that if you are really happy, which are those areas in the face are having more blood flow, and through that process we try to understand whether it is a real emotion. If you are not really happy, you will be showing happiness, but the blood flow would be inadequate. So a lot of ways, there are a lot of researches are being done even on the color of face, and then we understand whether you are really happy or not. But face is not only the only channel. We also try to understand non-verbally your emotions through vocal characteristics of speech. And when we say vocal characteristics of the speech, we try to understand through your voice set, the voice qualifier, the voice characterizer, voice qualities, and I have written, if you can see this slide, you will find the voice set means, at what age, suppose I am an old person. So my age is, my voice set is reflecting my age. Yeah, I do not have to tell that I am 60 plus. My voice will say that I am 60 plus. So my voice will say that I am a male person. My voice will say that, well, I am engaged in talking to you. So this is called voice set. So a lot of researches are also done on voice set. Voice qualifier also, what is the pitch range, how articulation is being made, what is the rhythm, how the tempo, what is the speech silence ratio are also analyzed, called voice qualities. Then comes voice characterizers. That is, while you talk to me, while you convey your emotion, what are the emotions, emotional signals that you are using? Are you laughing while you are talking? Are you sobbing while you are talking? Are you whispering while you are talking? They are called vocal characterizers. And then voice qualifiers. These are physical characteristics of the speech. What are the intensity, the pitch heights, the timbre, all these qualities, voice qualities are also researched upon. If you are not confident, for example, we count on, actually in interviews, we count on your speech disturbances. Many of us, when we talk to each other, we try to use some kind of non-language in order to gain some kind of confidence. For example, we say, you know what I am trying to tell. Why you know? You know has got no meaning. It's a meaningless, word. The question is, or if I repeat what I have been saying, or if I am stammering what I have been saying, or if I am saying half the word at times, these are called speech disturbances. These are also analyzed in order to understand your mental state or your emotional state. So this is called paralinguage or vocal characteristics of the speech, or also called vocalizations. A lot of researches are done on that. Then comes proximal behavior and sitting posture. That also tells a lot. Now, when we interact with each other, we maintain some kind of distance depending upon the cultural norm. So, if a couple is going on the street, husband and wife, if they are, if they are closely related, even if the physical distance is slightly more, we still understand that they belong to each other. Actually, based on some kind of metric analysis of space, we divide the physical distance into 4 parts: intimate space, personal space, social space, and public space. Intimate space is generally within 1.5 feet. Intimate space. 1.5 feet to 3 feet is called personal space. 3 feet and above is called social space. And public space is generally a space like between a teacher and all the students in the classroom. That's more a kind of public space. So how you sit, if you are very anxious, you would not be able to take a personal space. So your spacing mechanism also tells many things. What is that you want to communicate? So spacing behavior tells that whether you like each other or not, whether you have got social anxiety or not, whether you have got body image barrier or not, whether you have got sex difference or not, what kind of personality you have. All these things come under the metric analysis of space, which is called proximal behavior. Then comes gesture. That face is fine, but along with the face, we use a lot of gestures. So when you are very happy, you not only smile, you actually get your thumbs up. Or you see the girl in the top, a girl in the down, they both express some kind of gestures. They complement what you have been, what they have been saying or what they wanted to convey. So some of these gestures are intentional, some of these gestures may be unintentional, but they are the primary tool for communicating what you think and what you express and how you want to express. So facial expression, body language, your vocalizations, everything come and supplement each other. Your touch behavior is also a kind of communication that we maintain. So tactile and touch behavior. At times when I go to my mother never says that I love you, but she simply touches, I touch her feet, or she simply touches me at my back, and that tells all. So touch behavior is very, very effective, and that tells the kind of relationship you have with someone. And not only that, the physical attachment through touch behavior also shows your empathy. Now, a lot of marketeers, a lot of consumer behavior researches are being done on touch behavior. So if you go to a supermarket, you will find that the consumers are allowed to see what they wanted to. They feel it, they touch it. When they feel it, touch it, they feel that it's probably theirs, so they purchase it. It's called haptics. A lot of haptics researches are being done. Therefore, touch behavior has become a great tool for marketing, and it's also a tool for showing your empathy. So your happiness, your empathy, everything can be expressed, not only what you say. You don't need to tell. but a simple touch will tell what is that you wanted to convey. How you look it at, I mean, it's just not face. Your look is also very important. And the look behavior. Suppose you are facing an interview, and as I said, what the interviewer is trying to say, I mean, if it is towards the interviewer and this is the interviewee, I mean, if suppose, sorry, this is the interviewee and this is the interviewer. Now, what the interviewer, if he approves what she has been saying, the look would be different. The measurement is generally done through gauge behavior, whether it is a yes or whether it is no. When it is no, the gauge behavior goes down. So you don't need to tell that I don't like you, or I don't appreciate your comment, or I don't say that you are correct. So whenever you say incorrect, disapprove, you don't appreciate something, you look down, you don't look up. So gauge behavior also tells a lot of your communicative pattern. You see, when you shake hand with somebody, if you are having a power gauge, then you look directly. If you have got a social gauge, you actually go slightly down. You see this and you see this. And if you have got an intimate gauge, then you look, the angles or the pupillary movement of the two eyes become altogether different. So there is gender difference, there is personality difference, there are power relationship, there are conversational signals, all through gauge behavior can also be examined. So happiness is communicated all through these means. If you are trying to camouflage your happiness, it can very easily be detected through computer vision. That's why the subject matter has become so important. Pupillary size is also very important. That not only what the way you look, it's also the size of your pupil. If you are truly happy, then the pupillary size will be much bigger. If you are not happy, then the pupillary size will not be bigger. Now, I can give you the example of these two girls. You will not find they are different. But if you superimpose these two photographs, you will find the differences only in the pupillary size. If your pupillary size, which you cannot control voluntarily, if you are happy, the pupillary size will automatically be bigger. If you are not happy, your face may show happiness, but your pupillary size will go down. Therefore, a lot of researches are also done on pupillary behavior. Our intent is communicated also through pupillary behavior. By superimposing these two photographs in two different conditions, when you are happy, when you are not happy. And if we superimpose, as I said, you will find no difference except on the pupillary size. And this pupillary dilation and constriction, if your if your pupils are dilated, you are very happy. You want to absorb more and more information. If your pupils are not dilated, constricted, then even if you are showing something wrong or something happiness, we understand that you are not truly happy. Finally, let me tell you, this is a subject matter which comes under the banner of behavioral biometry. That is, it's an interface of psychology and computer vision. Behavioral biometry as a subject, we try to understand any pattern of behavior that is specific to the user. It is not about what we do, it is the way we do. It focuses on behavior patterns, not physical attributes. It utilizes thin slices of behavior or micro behavior as an input, not what are the enduring features of your behavior. I mean, it's a shift from static to ongoing authentication. That is, if you are conversing with someone, it's just not one particular snippet or one particular static image. Actually, through behavioral biometry, over a period of time, we get to understand how many times you were happy while you are talking to me, and how many times and how much time you were not happy while you were talking to me. So it's ongoing on the authentication of your communication of emotion is also possible, powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning. And if you really want to know somebody's personality, or if you want to know when you meet someone whether he or she becomes happy or not, you can actually improve the accuracy by machine emotional intelligence. So the point I'm trying to tell here that, well, this subject matter is a very interesting subject matter. Today, many software companies have come up. At least 10 software companies I know, including iMotion in Cambridge. CrowdMotion also is a company. They try to understand your happiness even in crowd. So facial emotion detection, sentiment analysis, sonic algorithms, everything has started coming up. Through computer vision, algorithms detect actually face within a photo or video, and then sense micro expressions by analyzing the relationship between points on the face and based on curated databases. So through this, we suppose these researches are also being utilized very heavily by consumer behavior scientists. They try to understand when you see a product, whether you are really happy or not. And that happiness, even if you don't say, if you have got CCTV footage, you can analyze with the software and tell whether the customer is really happy or not. Or if you see a movie, how much you have enjoyed the movie, it can be told today. When you fly a aircraft, these days a lot of biosensors are utilized for understanding your kinesthetic behavior, your tactile behavior. And the biosensors, if you are very happy and feel pleasant, the color of the cover that you utilize, or the seat in which you utilize, the color changes. If you are unhappy, the color becomes different based on the capture. Communication, as I said, is an elaborate secret code that is written nowhere, known by none, but understood by all. That's very important. That's the reason it's so universal. But let me also caution you that it's very easy to interpret, difficult to generalize. If you are not expert, you will not be able to understand what is really going on. Because culturally, we learn so many things to interpret how a person is behaving. So unless you are thoroughly practiced, you should not be able to interpret it. Meaningless, it is meaningless at times without having the context. If I do not know at what point of time the person was showing happiness, that is, as I said, context, content, and intent, all three things are important. So if context is not known, it would be very difficult for you to understand the nonverbal expressions. They are highly susceptible to subjective bias. Means the way you interpret and the way I interpret, we may both be saying that someone is happy. But how happy and on what basis, whether it is real happiness or not, these subjective judgments can always differ. There is no universal way of doing it. They are very inaccurate in isolation, but fairly accurate in cluster. It means when you take all kinds of nonverbal expressions at one go, that is facial expressions, paralanguage, kinesics, proxemics, pupillary behavior, touch behavior. If you create a profile, then they are fairly accurate. But if you only try to understand the pupillary size, for example, or the touch behavior, or the proximal behavior, that is the space you are maintaining, it would be very difficult to actually generalize in isolation. But if everything comes in a cluster, you would be able to make it in a better way. And often misperceived with some kind of mannerism. Some people have the tendency, those who are suppose in sales job, they keep on smiling on everything. Some people develop mannerism. So whether it is part of the personality feature or it is part of the profession. For example, someone who is in the receptionist job, they always smile. So when we go to Japan, we find that they show happiness as part of their mannerism. They are their expressions are part of their mannerism, culturally learned. So it's often misperceived. There is a possibility that what you say and how you say there is a contradiction, but if you have got the training, it will improve upon your judgment. So it's very important that you take training and improve upon your judgment. This is what I wanted to say. If you have got any point to make, I am ready for that. Is there any point? Anybody?
Sir, I had one question. You mentioned that there is an asymmetry when we are analyzing facial expressions, and
Yes.
left side generally is the one which expresses. But why isn't there such an asymmetry when it comes to pupils and eyes?
People's eyes?
Yes.
No, asymmetry is there in the muscular movement of the two sides of the face. If you join your right side of the face, you will find that is bigger. The left side is always squeezer. Always shorter. The reason is that we are more habituated. If you try to, I don't know whether you can see it or not. The two hands are also not similar. If you are a right-handed person, the muscular movement, the muscle structure, even with some kind of length is also higher because you are utilizing the right hand more often as compared to the left hand. So if you are a right-hander, that is a left-brained person, your right face is more often exposed to social behavior. You try to control more often with the right face because you are a right-hander. And since you utilize your right face more often, the muscular involvement of the right face is also always much more. But the left side of the face remain inactive and active only when you are emotional, because there is a direct connection between left side of the face and the right side of the brain, not the left side of the brain. And the right side of the brain is the emotional brain. So all your emotions which are leaked, which you cannot control through social behavior, are passed in the left side of the face. Therefore, left side of the face is, both sides are asymmetrical. Left side of the face is more smaller, more squeezer, shorter as compared to the right. Right is more involved for public emotions. Left is more involved for private emotions. In order to understand whether public and private faces are different, we try to utilize this technology, which is called facial and composite method. And these are all scientifically proven. If you want to see any literature, at least I have got 50 international articles on that subject matter. You can Google my name, or in PubMed, you will find at least 50 plus different researches done by me only. But there are thousands. I am not the only person. There are other persons who have also done research on that. Is it clear to you?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So before we leave, we communicate happiness more often non-verbally, and there are many channels of non-verbal communication. They are all subject of studies, scientific studies, and these expressions we do not manipulate consciously all the time. Therefore, there is always a leakage. And if somebody is a keen watcher, will understand whether the emotion is truly communicated or communicated deceptively or through certain camouflaged means. These are, as I said, subject of research, and in regular day-to-day expressions, we believe if I am showing my happiness through words, that's enough. But that's only less than 10% of what you have communicated. 90% of our communications are non-verbal. That's the message today, what I wanted to give you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sukarna. Thank you. Thank you, Yogesh. If there is no other question,
Thank
then
you,
I
sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Holi to all of you.
Happy Holi, sir.
Happy
Happy
Holi.
Holi, sir.
Happy Holi to all of you. God bless you. Enjoy yourself.